So, really nice to see you all here. Welcome to this webinar by DoiT in collaboration with AWS about cost optimization. So, really excited to kind of start diving deeper into this topic. Um, and really great to see you all here, and that you have an interest in this topic. So, let's start with having a quick look at the agenda then. So first, I will just give you a quick introduction when it comes to do it, as maybe you haven't heard of us yet, or maybe you're already an existing customer with us. But anyway, we'll just give you a quick overview of what we do and how we can support in terms of AWS and in terms of cost optimization. Then our technical account managers, Luca and Francois, will take you through. The FinOps lifecycle and start diving deeper into the cost optimization topic. And then Noah from AWS will speak about computer purchasing options when it comes to both Graviton and Spot, for instance. And then Francois will wrap this up with speaking around, tooling and a few reference slides. And also I realized here that I forgot to introduce myself. So really great to meet you all. I'm Linda Leto. I am a senior account executive here at DoiT. I work with our Nordic and Baltic AWS customers, and been with DoiT for a year so far. Before that, I used to be an account manager at AWS for a few years. So let's start just with that quick intro about DoiT. So we have been working in step with digital natives like yourselves for more than a decade. We are an AWS premier partner and a reseller partner. So we're helping digital native companies build and deploy and innovate in the cloud and migrate workloads and also adopt new technologies like AWS and machine learning and much more. So we also understand on a very practical level, the pressures that you're facing from an IT perspective. And we've also built our business on helping teams like yours overcome these challenges. So we do this by providing intelligent technology that simplifies and automates your cloud use, and then alongside expert consultancy and unlimited technical support. So our customers have unlimited access to all of it anytime, simply by logging into our technology platform. So from there, you can access products like our cost optimization or analytics tools. And you can also raise tickets for anything that you need, from straightforward product supports to more complex consultancy questions. So there's no limit or charge for our services. And there's no tiered support. So it's the experts who also respond to every ticket, regardless of the type of help that you need. And so it's really, this combination of our technology and our expertise that let's do it help you in also three key ways. So we both, help you to better understand and fully optimize your cloud use. And then we also help you, build and deploy and iterate on your projects with, better efficiency as well. And then we help, enable and upskill your team so that you continue to, grow and succeed with the cloud. So, and this is also kind of how, and also an important point of, how we work with customers. So we both give you the guidance and also the advice and the tips, and also the benefit of our experience to, enable you to overcome challenges and answer any questions and build the programs that will then deliver value for our customers today and in the future. So our mission is also to enable greatness through the cloud. And so in a moment, we'll also highlight specifically, how we do that and how we, and how we do these things differently. But I do also want to preface that just by saying that it's really easy to get started with us, and that also comes with, zero cost to you. And you do get access to everything we have to offer just by consolidating your billing through DoiT. So this is just done with a simple 4-page agreement, and you don't pay anything, to us on top of your cloud bill. So we have this unique business model, and we're paid by the cloud provider and not you. So that kind of also frees us to focus on delivering what you need to reach your cloud goals. So that's just a quick intro on us. Of course, if there's any questions around, how we work and so on, feel free to post those in the chat. But let's now kind of move on to the cost optimization topic in itself. So I'm handing over to Francois to kick this part off.
Thanks, Linda. Your introduction brings me smoothly to cost optimization, so I will quickly introduce myself. So nice to meet you all. I'm Francois. I'm a technical account manager for DoiT, and I've been working as a TAM since last year. I used to work at AWS before. So next slide, please, Vika. So what is cost optimization and why do we need to think about it? Now, I'm not going to elaborate too long over this, but think that you start from trying to work out which costs are the most critical to your business and then try to reduce them. Now, we say it often for joking in the team, but like if you need to reduce all of your costs, you can just turn everything off and then you have saved all your cloud costs overnight. This is absolutely fantastic, but your business will actually stop working. So it's not about cost saving. It is about making more profits, but getting there and trying to pick through what you should be doing is difficult because cloud is complicated and always you need to have scrutiny over what you are doing. But sometimes you need to have a strong idea of where you are going in order to get there. So you can just go, okay, we need to set cost. What one can we turn out? Next slide, please. It is it is more about the question how we do things more efficiently. How can we observe what we are doing? So if you make a change, you can then see what the impact of that change is. There are always opportunities to decrease costs without impacting performance, except they become diminishingly rewarding. So over time, you will do more and more cost-effective savings, and it is not um, a it is not a one and done switch, which Luca will cover in a minute. But if you are doing it well, you should get to the point you are just keeping on top of things as your business grows and matures, as opposed to having to do a big endeavor all the time. You will realize it's standard kind of a DevOps agile philosophy. You do a little, a lot, and then you can maintain it. So we have got a bunch of tools. The DoiT Cloud Console, which is a console you can log into. We do a bunch of reportings. It kind of operates very much like Cursor, but with a handful and additional features and benefits over it. We can do things like attributions. So you do easy team allocation of cost. We have our FlexSafe project, which also Luca will cover it later, which dynamically applies reservations for you without commitment and giving you the 1 year upfront benefit. And we have some spot scaling technology as well to help you with your cost usage. But to underscore the fact that you get access to all of engineers and consultancy at all at zero cost. So all the features there at zero cost from DoiT. Um, please next slide, Luca. So I mentioned the cost optimization is an ongoing process, and this is a typical cost optimization journey. So the journey begins, the spend is probably too high. There is a cost optimization effort which then enables and frees up resources for growth. And then you go further after doing optimization because the efficiency is better. Some of your resources have been tightened and the costs have been reduced. Very nice. However, unfortunately, and so often I see this journey as a one-off event or just come back once in a year. And that's not the ideal way to do cost optimization, which brings us to FinOps and what FinOps is. So now I give the floor to Luca.
Thank you, Francois. Thanks for the introduction. My name is Luca. I'm a technical account manager, same team as Francois. So thank you all for joining and tuning in. Definitely, cost optimization is not a one-off event. And to frame this as a practice inside your company, we have to talk about FinOps, right? There's different ways we can organize this practice. One of them is, of course, via the help of DoiT. I like to quote here our leader in the technical account manager team, Ian, that you can either turn it off, right size it, and when you can't turn things off, then you can use reservations, or you can use FlexSave. FlexSave is our custom technology, which I'm gonna introduce you a bit later. That it gives you this kind of automated cost optimization. But there are ways and there are situations where automated cost optimization is not enough, and what you really want to bring to the table is the benefit and I would say the value of the cloud as a whole. So FinOps practices look to kind of remove the challenge from the get-go by looking at the source of the issue. And source of the issue, sometimes you see them in these slides. They can be multiple things. They can be using wrong resources. You can waste money on top of that. You can oversize things, have inefficient development approaches, having not super clear purchase approaches, and so on and so forth. But all of these elements are fully disconnected from the technologies that the cloud is providing at the moment. As you can see here, this is something you have to look inside your organization to truly understand. And as you look at the source of the issue, this you might scare you. It's like, I just wanted to use the cloud. I want to fulfill the promise of the cloud, but you're listing me here a series of things that I have to take on as an organization. And that's why the FinOps Foundation and FinOps practice try to take all this. And this is the real reason why FinOps is getting loads of traction, and we're using this with loads of customers at the moment. DoiT is here to support you in your FinOps journey, which underlines the profound change that your organization has to do in order to extract the most value out of the cloud to fulfill its promise. And it's a matter really of three main pillars, areas where we can really take action on. First and foremost, visibility of cloud costs and cloud usage, and how to, again, basically, if we want to optimize our cloud usage, we definitely have to take a look at what we're using it right now. And this is kind of the center data source of our actions. Have right governance of cloud resources, cloud spend, cloud journey in general, and of course, cost optimization. And as Francois was saying, cost optimization is not really only turning things off or getting the cheapest price in the cloud menu. We're really looking into bringing efficiency, and there are all set of new economic drivers that FinOps is helping organizations to embark on. There are a few key points about FinOps that really I want to drive home for you here. The first one is not about saving money, it's about making money. The whole idea of FinOps is to, again, back up the purpose, the promise of the cloud. And having cloud is an economic and growth driver. So once you are embarking on the FinOps journey, the promise is to free up more resources to make more money out of it as an organization, right? The second thing is to focus on business metrics. We are looking at costs not only as monetary costs, but as a business metric. So we want to tie it back to things that are relevant for your organization, like active users, new signups. Of course, that depends on which type of industry and which type of product you're building. And introduce this concept of cloud unit economics, really looking at the investment you're doing on the cloud and what is the return on that investment. And you can only do that not by looking at costs of the cloud as a whole, holistically, but you really have to take a look at exactly how much your cloud is consuming your monetary resources, and how does that align with the business metric we were discussing before. And then last but not least, take a look at fixed costs versus elastic costs. What are things that are growing and breathing with the life of our organization, and what are things that we simply cannot move away from, and try to understand how we can increase the efficiency of that investment. Now, FinOps is, as a practice, has much more layers and complexity that I can present to you here in this webinar. So definitely, if you want to have more information, just hook us up, and we will definitely get loads of materials to you, and we would love to hear about your challenges. But I just want to highlight the three main areas of the cycle of the life cycle of FinOps. which is inform, the first one, which is all about visibility, as I mentioned before. So getting better monitoring, tracking, understanding our cloud environments and our cloud spend. Optimizing, which is again taking a look at how we are utilizing those resources based on the inform phase data. And then operate, how to put this into a continuous improvement and operation, make it a company practice, make it something that you don't even realize you're doing because it's so embedded into your operations. And this goes back to Francois's point of this is not a one-off. This is you're continuously doing. It becomes a product lifecycle on its own within your company. I already introduced a bit of the phases of each of the functions of these phases, but I just want to reiterate a couple of elements here. Inform phase is to take a look at your data, get the most accurate data possible, and understand, how you're operating your cloud, identifying anomalies, and introducing budgets, forecasts to your practice. Optimization is, based on the data you uncovered. Take a look at how you are consuming your cloud resources and find those fine tunings that we can immediately jump to the eye. And then I would argue the most important part, how to align these operations to a business practice, and how do we take everyone on board, including executives, including senior leadership, to make this something that's in the lifeblood of your company, of your organization, and evaluate the value of this practice as we move along. This is now required by the utilization of the cloud. There are a few things I just want to point out because, this is all theoretical, but if you're an AWS customer, you might already have experience with the Cluster Explorer. This is a dashboard, a tool that the AWS console provides by default to all AWS customers. It's perfectly embedded into the inform phase of the FinOps lifecycle, right? You take a look at your costs, you take a look at how those costs evolve over time. The Cost Explorer gives you also ability of setting up budgets, taking a look at forecasts. It's all good and done. Here at DoiT, we also developed our own cloud management platform, or simply called the AWS console, which gives you a much more flexible way to take a look at your costs. As Francois was saying, we have in our console the ability of setting up custom dimensions or attributions to really align what your costs are to your business. Based on cloud providers' architectures and cloud providers' hierarchy, you might be fixed into specific buckets of spend, right? My account or project spends X amount of money. And it's very difficult to disassociate those costs to your teams or to the way your teams are using the cloud. So with the console, you are able to do that. We take the billing data, and then the billing data is, you can slice and dice that billing data pretty much in every type of dimension you want. And again, this is the superior tool to really make part of the inform phase of the FinOps lifecycle, as I was saying. There's also an element of accountability when you're onboarding on FinOps, and this accountability is not only on the technical teams. Accountability has to be across all teams that are building your product or your services. Finance, engineering, operations, management, procurement, if you have that kind of functionality or function in your company, all of those have to be aligned to understand exactly what are the implications of a FinOps lifecycle and how each of these teams is contributing to the increased efficiency and the increased value that the cloud is bringing. And FinOps is actually aiming to do that, has a matrix, has a capability to create this collaboration across the team. Don't worry, you're not alone in building that up. And so in terms of accountability, the teams fundamentally, they have to collaborate. There needs to be ownership around cloud usage. The thing about FinOps is that there needs to be a centralized team that owns and drives this practice. This team can be cross-functional, don't get me wrong. So you can have people from engineering, you can have people from from finance, you have people from operations, but these those teams contribute to a centralized team that's driving FinOps and is reporting their results and their efforts into top management. And again, the FinOps Foundation and we at DoiT, we can help you in setting this up for your company. So with that said, I just want to give the floor back to Francois, who's going to take us through a whirlwind tour of cost savings and how to optimize compute. Francois?
Yeah, thank you, Luca. So what makes up most of our customers' bills is compute, and there is a very good reason. Next slide, please. So we can see across the industries that from 50 up to 80% of cloud bills are taken by compute. And you need to know there are ways of trying to mitigate this. However, I see things like reservations as a kind of a band-aid on a wooden leg because it is a way of reducing the cost for a bit because they are time limited, 1 year, 3 year. And you will realize soon enough that most of the time they are less impactful than infrastructure changes, but it is a very good tool and you can apply the reservations as needed and you will see that the timing is to buy commitments. Next slide, please. So when it comes to compute, what can you do to get that cost down, knowing that it represents such a big chunk of the bill? So here, what's called a 4-box slide, analyze, decommission, right size, and discounts. So you can monitor your usage with CloudWatch and look at the price in Cost Explorer, for example. You can also tag. Please tag your resources. If you are not tagging today, well, you should be. And it's because you can't really have a strong conversation about cost optimization, and profit increasing without knowing what you are doing. And it starts with tagging. Knowing what your resourcing is the resources that you are decommissioning, you can remove unused instances. And yes, that's pretty much a no-brainer. But you will be surprised how many there are just laying around there. Often you can use things like instance scheduler to turn stuff off overnight. And then that's really important when it comes to right sizing, auto scaling, flexibility of workloads. And if every single AWS cloud presentation out there talks about elasticity of the cloud and embracing that, make sure you've got the correct instance type. Because, for example, did you know that you can use a T3 and the T3 will be burstable for relatively low cost, and that can very often replace your M series. So you've got big workloads that could be replaced by T series, for example. You have also the discounts, spot instances, saving plan, etc. We will dive into that in a bit more depth. So that being said, I will now hand over you the delightful Noah.
Thank you, Francois. So my name is Noah from the cost optimization team in AWS. And today we're going to see how we can leverage our reserve instances and saving plans and maximize our savings. We're going to deep dive on how we can leverage AWS pricing model, how we can purchase, manage, and monitoring our saving plans when we purchase them, and how we can avoid unpleasant surprises by setting up alarms that can maximize our savings. When we begin our journey is in the FinOps journey, I'm expecting to see something like the lift graph, to see our usage increase, but our cost increase in the same ratio. But once we begin our cost optimization actions, we are expecting to see something like that in the right graph, to see our usage increase, but our cost not increased in the same ratio. And how we can get from the left graph to the right, we're going to see it today. When we are talking about cost optimization, there are a few actions we can take in order for us to save money. In the technical aspect, we can do right sizing to make sure our technical teams runs the machine efficiently in the right sizing according to the workload or the utilization. We can make sure that we are doing modernization actions, that we are running in the most newest generation AWS released with the most powerful processor that can improve our performance. And most of the time when AWS release new generation, it can really decrease our cost. Another thing we can see if we can increase our elasticity. For example, if we have environment of testing that we can shut down during the weekend or in the evening, we can use tools like auto-scaling and instant scheduler in order for us to maximize the savings. This is the main focus today. Pick the right pricing model. In order for us to even start doing cost optimization, we need to know what we are being charged for. And the last thing is to match our usage storage classes with, for example, our storage S3 that we can use different tiers and run more efficiently and save money. All of those actions we're gonna do it constantly, monitoring and tracking it, and it's not a one-time action that we're going to. So we're gonna focus today on the pricing model. Like I mentioned, in order for us to do cost optimization, we need to know what we are being charged for. The first thing is pay as you go, exactly like it sounds. We only pay for what we are using, exactly like electricity. When I'm going into my house and open the light, I'm going to pay for it. But if I'm leaving the house and turn off the light, I'm not going to pay for it. We have services that we are being charged by, we pay less by using more. For example, S3, once we are using more gigabyte, we're going to pay less. And the main focus for today, we can say when we commit. We can commit to a specific amount of spend for 1 year or 3 years, and in return, get more discount. Exactly like I'm going to Pilates classes, if I'm going to pay each class separately, for example, I'm going to pay each class $10. But if I buy a ticket for 10 classes in advance, I'm going to pay eventually less for each class. Let's focus on the pricing model for compute. So we have our on demand. This is the default rate. We talked about it before. We pay only for what we are using. Pay as you go. It really fits for unexpected workload. For example, if I have new project that I can't estimate it, how much I'm gonna need, I need the flexibility to turn on and to turn off my machines when I need to. The second thing, it's what instances, it's AWS EC2 spare capacity that can save us up to 90% compared to our on-demand rate. And let's take the following scenario. Let's say that AWS has 10 machines and 8 of them are being rented by customers that willing to pay on-demand rates. AWS left with 2 machines and they are coming to you and say, hey, we have 2 machines that we are willing to rent to you in lower prices. But once a customer comes and will be willing to pay on-demand rate, we will give you notify of 2 minutes. And within these 2 minutes, you will need to give us back the instances. It sounds really little, the time of 2 minutes. We have a lot of strategy to handle this. I'm not going to get into this now, but it's manageable and it fits for fault tolerance workload. For workload that can be interrupted, for example, if I'm training my machine and it's not a customer facing. And the main focus, saving plans and reserve instances. a commitment that we can commit for a specific amount of spend, and in return get a discount. It fits for expected and steady workload. The magic of the pricing model of the compute is the combination. What we are expecting to see is a combination for the layer that is steady, we're expecting to see commitment. For the unsteady workload, we are expecting to see on demand. And for the fault tolerance, we are expecting to see spot. By maximizing all the pricing model and the combination, we want to maximize the saving. Once I decide to purchase saving plans, I have two options for saving plans. I have the most flexible option, the compute saving plan. It applies to EC2, Fargate, Lambda, regardless of the region, the instance family type, the size, the tenancy, the operating system, and it can give me up to 66% discount compared to my on-demand rate. And I have a little bit less flexible commitment, EC2 saving plans, for specific region and family type. And it can give me more discount. The two of them are, I can get it for 1 year or 3 years and play with the option, with the payment option. I decided to purchase saving plan. How can I decide what is the commitment I can make, the recommendation? What is my potential savings? Exactly for that, and we mentioned before the Cost Explorer, we have inside the Cost Explorer a tool for recommendation based on machine learning. Exactly for that, it can show us a specific recommendation. Once we determine the saving plans term, we can decide for 1 year or 3 years. Of course, that if I choose 3 years, it's gonna give me more discount. I can choose the payment option, all upfront, no upfront, partial. And I can choose based on the past 30 days, 60 days, or 7 days. Below, I can see the current monthly on-demand spend, the estimated monthly spend after purchase, the saving plan, and what is the potential saving I'm having. And below, I can see the commitment, the recommendation. For example, if I have recommendation to purchase $10 per hour and I want to be more conservative, I can purchase $8 and then decide after 1 month that I see that I'm not overcommitting to purchase more. So this is a really good starting point for you to analyze and to see the recommendation and the potential of your saving. I'm not going to enter this in this session, but we have also reserved instances for other services other than compute. For example, RDS, Redshift, Elasticcache, OpenSearch that enable us to get discount compared to on-demand rate. I purchased my saving plans. What I'm going to do next? Most of our customers are purchasing saving plans and then forget about it. And this is exactly what we want to avoid. We want to set a better monitoring and to track our saving plans. First, we want to use AWS tools like inventory, utilization report, and coverage report, and we're going to see it in a moment. Then we're going to manage alert in order for us to know when our saving plans expired and to avoid unpleasant surprises. And we want to manage budget alerts for utilization and coverage in order for us to track this. The first thing, once I purchase, I want to see what I own. I want to see all of the saving plans, commitment I have, what is the status, if it's active, retired, what type, compute, is it too, what is the commitment I made, and the start date and the end date. I can download it to CSV and analyze it. Second thing, I want to go to my utilization report. It's a report that shows me the utilization of my saving plan. how much I'm actually using of my commitment. I can see the saving plan spent for the time period that I'm choosing. I can see the total saving for this time period, and I can set up a target for utilization and see how I am aligned to my target compared to the actual utilization. In here, you can see that I'm aligned. I'm on 100% utilization. I can see it in monthly, daily, or hourly granularity, and I can download it to CSV, analyze it, and it's really nice tool for us to track our utilization and see the trends over time. We have also coverage report that can show us how much I'm covered in saving plans, how much my workload covered by saving plan. I can see the on-demand spend that is not covered, the average coverage, and the additional potential monthly saving. I can set up a target. For example, in here, I want to be covered by saving plans by 80%, that my workload will be covered 80% by saving plan. You can see that the target versus the actual coverage is way far, that I'm below the target. And in here, I can plan ahead according to this report and purchase more saving plans in order for me to reach my goal. We saw the coverage report and utilization, but we want to get also alert besides see the trends over time. We have the alerts for expiring saving plans. It's really important for us in order for us not to get surprised by the end of the month. A lot of customers get surprised once their saving plans expired after 1 year or 3 years, depends how much they decide to commit to. And they see all of a sudden spike in their quote because they are paying on-demand rate. The best way to avoid it is to get an alert 7 days, 30 days, 60 days before the expiration. And then based on that, you can have the right strategy to know how much you need to purchase and the fact that you need to purchase more saving plans to cover your on-demand. The last thing is the budget alerts. We saw the utilization and coverage report. We can add alerts in order for us to track this and get alerts once we're under specific threshold. We can do it, for example, we can enter 100% utilization. And then once I'm below the threshold, I'm going to get an alert. And it can help me plan according to this alert. So we had a really quick session on how to leverage reserve instances and saving plans. And the key takeaways, it's first, in order for us to do cost optimization, we need to get familiar with AWS pricing model and to know what we are being charged on. And the second thing is once we purchase saving plans, we want to monitoring and track this. And in order for us to avoid unpleasant surprises, to set up alerts that will enable us to better control our costs.
So thanks, Noah, for this. And so let's now dive a bit deeper into the purchasing option that we have on AWS. So as we have already identified, you can purchase your instances on demand, simple purchasing option. We can commit through savings plans. And also we can leverage spot instances. Just as a quick reminder, spot instances is spare EC2 capacity or spare compute capacity that AWS has that is offered at a higher steep discount than over the on-demand prices. This is also recommended for workloads that are fault tolerant in general, stateless, simply because with spot instances, you might see your instances getting turned off by AWS where this capacity is needed, either via on-demand or via reservations from other customers. So knowing this, we also have opportunities to do some cost optimization within the type of instances or within the the type of workloads we're going to leverage, especially for EC2 instances for compute for virtual machines, right? AWS has the widest and deepest offering in terms of compute capacity at the moment. As you know, their EC2 instances can run Intel options, they can run AMD CPUs. Not pictured over here, but you can also issue requests to run Mac OS instances on AWS. And most intriguing for me and definitely for a lot of customers are the Graviton processors. The Graviton processors are ARM-based processors who guarantee a much more efficient approach to compute, proven that, of course, your application is compatible with ARM-based processors. The support for this type of technology is growing, I would say, by the minute. And so more and more, especially open source projects, are really responding well to this type of compute platform. And it's a great way for customers to save a few bucks when they're running their compute workloads on AWS, especially when we're looking into managed services such as RDS, OpenSearch, which are currently compatible with Graviton processors, is a very, very easy way to improve the efficiency of your workloads. I went a bit ahead of myself, but this is a Graviton. Graviton processors are a great example of optimized phase in the FinOps lifecycle. Why? Because we gathered in the inform phase information on how we are using our compute capacity. We identify in the optimized phase that, for example, I'm running a MySQL database over RDS in AWS, and that MySQL database might get better performance and lower costs via switching to a Graviton instance. So I can do that, and immediately I reap the benefit of that. So the AWS, as you know, has different statistics about it, but in general, you can take a look at 40% better price performance over x86 platform. So it's a great opportunity. And the Graviton 2, Graviton 3 instances offering is growing again every development cycle with AWS. So more and more you will see these type of instances coming your way or coming to your favorite, I would say, managed service. Another way to optimize your workloads, as Noah has extensively explained to us, is also spot instances. As I already mentioned, spot instances is a great way to save loads of money on your compute, proven that your workloads are capable to match this type of provisioning model. The interesting thing is that specifically with EC2, you can ask AWS to mix and match on demand and spot instances based, of course, on your requirements. So you can kind of tune how much saving or how much adoption of this model you can have. And definitely is a way for us to, again, dive into the optimized phase of the FinOps lifecycle to constantly tune this based on your requirements. Maybe you have a big development project coming on. It's a big release of your next platform. And so you have to invest a bit more in compute to give your developers more environments where to test this platform. You want to maybe tune up a bit your spot instance purchase models to get that. And then once this development is dying down because you locked your next platform, then that spot instance purchase can go down. And AWS gives you native tools to manage that. Just want to reiterate quickly here about the interruption behavior of AWS spot instances. You got a 2 minutes notice from AWS when they need to reclaim that capacity to higher priority workloads such as on-demand or reservations. The recommendation we always have to customers is, by default, you look at your workloads and you identify the workloads that can sustain this kind of abrupt interruption. On the other side, you can also manage that interruption, which is delivered via the instance metadata. You can handle that natively in your infrastructure to reduce the impact for that. And I think that this is, again, something that we can definitely help DoiT to kind of remove these little paper cuts that seem very, very, very big when we're describing them. Oh, AWS can reclaim my instance in 2 minutes. But in reality, with just a bit of automation and some support from people who have been there, they can massively reduce. The other thing I want to say on spot instances is the more flexible you are in terms of capacity requirements, meaning you know the type of instances you're going to need, the more benefit you can reap out of spot. If you really want to have spot instances for one specific instance type, you are at the mercy, I would say, of what is the spot capacity in the region at that time. Whereas if you're a bit more flexible, if you're just, again, undifferentiated type of workload that requires this kind of, that can handle that kind of fault tolerance, you're really, really looking for loads of savings via spot. The other thing I want to say in the optimized phase for FinOps is the challenges for discount plans. As you know, Noah has explained to us, there's plenty of options in AWS. There is a great way to handle those. But you know, so we found with customers that there is a challenge in projecting those requirements across the time commitment that AWS is going to ask us, 1 year or 3 years. And so sometimes managing those is a bit expensive, and there's requirements to do a bit of, I would say, due diligence before committing. And FinOps lifecycle phase optimize is really there to, again, minimize those risks. And also here at DoiT, we can definitely help with that. But in terms of optimization and minimal effort from customers, DoiT has developed a product called FlexSave, which I promised you a few slides ago, which is actually removing a lot of the complexity of commitments. With FlexSave, what you can do is you can consume your EC2 resources via an on-demand purchasing model, but at the prices of a 1 year no upfront discount. So basically, with FlexSave, by consolidating your bill through DoiT, you get FlexSave automatically, and via FlexSave, you consume your EC2 instances, but they get priced at 1 year no upfront on demand cost, which I think is, again, transparent to you as a customer. You get these benefits straight away just by consolidating to DoiT, and is one of the promises we have in terms of, you know, being very simple to manage. We have the old few compliance certifications. Of course, we are SOC 2, SOC 3 compliant, 27001 ISO, and of course, GDPR compliant for that. In terms of technicalities, I don't want to dive too much on this, but basically what we do is we take a look at your cloud consumption, on-demand cloud consumption. Our model then identifies which are the instances that could be a match for this for FlexSave, and then once we identify those, we apply that 1 year no upfront pricing to those instances which you are consuming on demand, and automatically that discount gets applied to your bill. And so once you get your bill, you get this automatically applied, and you can also monitor this in the console, how much of FlexSave is you know, kicking in your consumption, and how much benefit you can reap from that. The other piece, and again, this is tied a bit more into the operate phase of the FinOps lifecycle, is spot scaling. Spot scaling is, again, a product in DoiT that allows us to manage your auto-scaling groups and fulfill the request of your auto-scaling groups via spot instances. Again, our models analyze your auto-scaling groups and identify when that resource requirements can be fulfilled via available spot capacity in the region you're operating. And then immediately we spin up spot instances to fulfill that. And of course, it's still an auto-scaling group. So in case that capacity is not there, spot scaling will replace those with on-demand available instances. So you don't get any service interruption. You don't get any disruption in your service. You just get automated spot instances management out of spot scaling. And again, all of this is available just by consolidating your bill via DoiT. And now to talk a bit more about tooling, I'll just hand over to Francois.
Thanks. So moving on from the purchasing option summary, one of the questions we sometimes encounter is, where do you get this information from? How we do it, how we do this ourselves. So we have included a tooling section here. So please, next slide. There is a tool inside AWS or way that they capture all your cost and usage through a cost and usage report, CUR. And it is available through your console, and you can set it up if you don't really have access to it today. It's normally a lot of data, and you can crunch it through Athena, Redshift, or whatever, or you can export it out to other tools like QuickSight, etc. for analysis. So we use that data, the CUR data that we ingest into our DoiT console as a part of our project, and FlexSave uses that information to monitor your usage, and based on your changing workloads, it then reacts and applies dynamically the various reservation. So we know it is highly effective because we are using it in a highly effective manner. So I used, like I said, I used to work as a TAM at AWS, and I used to help lots of customers apply various different types of technologies that are available for enterprise support to help them build their own tooling, essentially. So in the AWS language, that's called an undifferentiated heavy lifting. And I wouldn't recommend building your own tool unless you really need it, because you've got you got some very specific requirements, like Netflix, for example. And about open source tool, I think Capital One did a very good one. And they made it available so you can use it. So you can build your own, or you can use off the shelf ones from partners such as DoiT or Marketplace, but ultimately everything is source of truth from the CUR. And that's both a positive benefit and a challenge at times, because the rate at which the services drop information into the CUR is not consistent at all times. So some services drop in very, very quickly. Some services can take up to 24 or 48 hours to appear there. So that's a universal challenge where we are all restricted. We are all restricted by it, and that sometimes you make a cost saving, and you will be like, hey, I want to see the impact. So if you are lucky to have chosen one of the services that has a long delay, it can take a couple of days to really see that impact. So try to be mindful of that. So you should be using other metric as well, the ones that are driving the business. So you are looking real-time usage. Please, next slide. So this is a FinOps challenge to identify a good business metric, and then work out what the cost drivers are, and then come up with a formula to see what that business metric looks like in cost terms. So you can improve that metric, and then you can improve your saving cost without negatively impacting your business. So it's always driving towards that common improvements. So you can use Cost Explorer, you can use QuickSight, and I mentioned you can use any other tools that you like about it, and it can help you draw that information out. As I said, the DoiT console is a very, very powerful tool. We use that data for anomaly detection, so real-time anomaly detection. So you do nothing, just cut it out, and you set a very specific attribution. So you consolidate results in together and monitor those. You can do callout alerts out of those. So it's a very powerful tool and fairly accessible to use. Fortunately, when you are on board with us, we give you a quick intro as to what it is, and our app is surprisingly good. Please, Luca, next slide. Yeah. So onto the service specifics. We talked about compute, and we talked in general terms about reservation, but we can also give you some tips with EBS. So what if you have identified that you spent a lot of money and time on EBS as snapshots? Let me share my thoughts here. It could be it could have a GPDR impact. And so sometimes the cost it's not the cost of the actual money storing your data. If you've got data which is sitting there, which inadvertently violates your own data policy. For example, your policy says that you have to retain data for 6 months, but you've got snapshots which are 12 months old and they contain some of the data inside those snapshots. Technically, you are in violation. So be mindful of that, of course. But there are a lot of things you can do. This is the first of a series of slides that I will briefly introduce you to so you can see what they analyze, decommission, right size, discounts looks like for a specific service. So if you need to right size some network, please. Yeah. So for network, it's always more complicated than a bullet point when it comes up to network. Yeah, like VPC flow logs, for example. What VPC flow logs does, it tracks the end-to-end location for each network connection that you're monitoring. It can generate a lot of data very, very, very quickly. So you can use it for a quick analysis to make sure that you haven't got any fault routes which are causing excess latency or excess costs by intra-region routing, or sometimes in one case, to give you an example, a time friend told me that they turn on flow logs and saw that the data was being routed to an old data center and then back up again because of the initial routing was done for a test and it was never removed. So they were running out for almost a year and it was very, very costly because all the data out of AWS has an egress cost, which can be mitigated in various different ways, but still think about all this stuff in not necessarily the dollar cost. It's more about the risk cost. So think about it. If you haven't got for example, any DR, disaster recovery or HA high availability, then please think about what happens if your business disappears because the system fails. So think about those costs. Please, next slide. So you want to optimize S3. So here are some quick tips around how to look at S3 and ways to minimize code there. You can use, for example, S3 storage lens to analyze how your data in S3 is being pushed or pulled and probably identify patterns so you can then make up some policies or changes. Please, next slide. And now databases. It is a huge topic that continues to grow year on year, which with each re-event. But again, remember, it's not just compute that can benefit from reservation. With RDS, Elasticache, etc., there is a lot of services out there that have reservations for them. Please, next slide. So those slides will circulate after this. So it's about to look at this in a bit more detail. So I just want to cover as we come up to Q&A time. I want to make sure we talk about the well-architected framework. So this is often ignored, and this framework is inside your console. So you can just go and ask a series of questions, and this is comparing your workload based on your answers and compare them to the best practices available from AWS. Note that AWS has millions of customers, and please keep in mind that this framework stands to lead to success, and AWS made it available to you. So there is a cost optimization parallel which has some excellent advice on it, and it should underscore everything and echo everything we have said today. There is also a sustainability pillar, so it's making sure that have a world for our children. So there is a sustainability piece, and technically, if you make your workloads more energy efficient, they are going to be more cost effective as well. So that ties in quite nicely, but never neglect things like security or reliability because that's impact your business, which doesn't have a dollar cost right now, but it absolutely does. You ask for example, anybody that suffered from a breach or some prolonged downtime, and they will tell you what the actual tangible dollar cost was for that. So be mindful of that. It always feels like a grudge buy when it happens early on, because it's like an insurance. You are buying reliability in case something happens, and surely it is in AWS best interest to stay up and maintain uptime. The uptime at AWS is very, very, very good, but like Werner Vogel said, the city of Amazon, everything fails all the time. So well-architected framework will help you analyze your workloads in comparison to the bug practices. Worst case, it just fills up your backlog. It never gets attention. Best case, it can help you save money and give you some areas to look at. So please give it a look. Next slide, please. So, what does good look? What does good? Sorry. What does good look like for FinOps? Honestly, um, it's one of those answers I have to say it depends, because it depends on what size company you are, what your maturity is, what your approach model, what is your approach model, what is your delivery model, you, what are your way of working. It is a very complicated question. So as a technical account manager, I would typically get to understand my customer, identify how they operate, and then when they ask me this question, I can tell them what's probably best for them. I'm not a fan of giving generic advice and say, well, normally you just want to make sure that you've got goodwill and trust across the organization. That is true, but I know you as a customer, and I will tell you why you need it, who needs it, which department are going to have it, and honestly, how to go about doing that potentially. Remember that cost optimization is not turning stuff off. It's about making things more effective and efficient, so you are more profitable as a business. So breaking down of department silo, it's super common. There is a clearly part of human condition that means that working inside sub-silos is somewhat more effective for us, as we tend to work with a tribe, with a team. Breaking down of department of silos, so with the typical developer versus ops, or the sales throw it over to the wall so the support can look after it. So keep in mind, like having everybody talk to each other, that's a fundamental core of FinOps. And if you go to FinOps.org website, you find more information how to go about doing that once you freed up some cash and made some more profits. You will find that acceleration and innovation takes care of itself, because people are more focused rather than taking care of just keeping the light on. People now have time. It frees up time, frees up resources, frees up money for investments into business growth. It drives accountability and auditability, so making sure that people are being held accountable if they are overspending. And overspending, of course, is a dangerous term, because you could have set an arbitrary budget last year, but things have now changed. So stay agile, stay focused, concentrate on the business metrics. Is your business performing the right way? And identifying that is an insidiously difficult question. I don't want to lie to you, because it is very hard to come up with a good business metric that is optimizable once you've got it. So accountability, auditability, you have to monitor stuff before you can improve it. And finally, when it comes to build your workloads, we have answered this. The fear online sometimes, because you haven't got any guardrails around your workloads, and the interns spun up thousands of dollars on infrastructure, and they didn't have to get approved. So you can put guardrails around things. Anomaly detection will help you detect if that happens. You can apply controls to stop those things happening to people that shouldn't be allowed to. So you can give playground accounts. All these things are covered in the FinOps. There are a really good FinOps book available as well. You can see it on the FinOps.org website, and overall, there is some great advice there. Please, next slide. So I close up today by saying that, remember, if it ain't broke, then you probably haven't deployed to production yet. And this is a quote that my manager says a lot, and it is very true. So please do follow up with looking at the slides. We'll share further information on that. It will come out to you after this, and I hope it will give you some bedtime reading tonight and have some night dreams about FinOps. So I look forward to meeting you all again in the future. So thank you so much for your attention today.